today we're going to be talking about Halloween traditions. And Halloween is a very popular holiday in the United States. And so there are a lot of different things you can do on Halloween. And while we're talking about these Halloween traditions, we're going to be practicing a little bit of present perfect tense. The present perfect tense. It's talking about things that happened before, but it's important right now. And so there are a few different ways to use present perfect. And one of them is talking about your experiences. Experiences meaning the things you've done in your life. Okay? So what have you done in your life? So you could hear it in my question. What have you done in your life? So have done. So the present perfect is made with a subject, which is usually a person or a thing. Then a verb, the verb have, right? The verb to have, plus a past participle, right? Subject, have, past participle. A past participle, you don't need to remember that name, but it's a verb plus ed, or maybe it's a irregular verb, a strange verb, where you change it, maybe it has an N sound, okay? For example, an experience in my life. I might say, I've played I'm crazy today. I've played baseball before. So when I was younger, I played baseball. So in my life, my experience, I can say I've played baseball before. And I've is short for I have, okay? So I is the subject, have is the to have verb, and then the past participle is just played, okay? Play plus ed. Now, if we're talking about our friend, you might say, he's gone to Japan before. So in his life, he has this experience. So he's gone. He's is short for he has. If it's he, the subject to have becomes has. And then the past participle of go is gone. This is an irregular verb. And like I said before, some of them you add an N sound. Okay? So it's a little bit tricky. You just have to remember. And then if you ask a question, it could be something like, have you tried blah, blah, blah? Okay? So these are the basics of using present perfect to talk about your experience. It's something that happened before in your life, but it's important now because it makes you who you are. Okay? So I have played baseball before. That experience changed my life. Okay? Another way to use present perfect is talking about up until now. It started a long time ago and it continued until now. Okay? Now there are other ways to use present perfect, but today we're going to talk about these two. They're useful for Halloween. So experience and then up until now. And again, I forgot the word to have. Sorry. No one's perfect, right? So we have the subject, meaning the person usually. Like I, he, she, or it could be an it too. It doesn't have to be a person. And then we have a verb to have, and that past participle, meaning the special kind of verb. So talking about myself, up until now. It started in the past, continued to now. I might say, I've lived in Taiwan for a long time. So if it was an experience, I could say, I've lived in China before. It happened before, but it's not true now. You could also use present perfect to mean it's still happening. So I've lived in Taiwan for a long time. It started a long time ago and continued till now. Got it? We can also use this for negative, saying something hasn't happened. So this is a little bit tricky, but what it means is something stopped, or like it started not being true and it continues to not be true. It's a little bit confusing, right? So I haven't gone to Japan in a while. So this time where I am not going to Japan, it started in the past and continued till now. All of that time, I haven't gone. So I haven't gone to Japan in a while. Unfortunately, with COVID and the pandemic, I haven't traveled to Japan. So too bad. It's been a few years. Okay? And then if we want to ask about, ask someone about up until now, maybe in the past, you could ask a question like, how long have you? How long have you been studying English? So it started a long time ago and continued till now. Okay? So these are the two ways we're going to use present perfect today to talk about Halloween. We're going to talk about our experiences, things we've done before, we've done, or what has happened up until now. Maybe something you have done for a long time or you haven't done for a long time. Some of the examples will be what I haven't done for Halloween in a long time. Because I'm getting a little bit old. Maybe I shouldn't go trick-or-treating. What do you think? Okay? So we're going to talk about different traditions for Halloween. The first one is decorating the house. So in the United States, when it's Halloween time or just in October, people like to decorate their house. And there are many different things, many different ways to decorate your house. And my question for you is, have you ever decorated your home? This is a general question. You could say, have you ever decorated your home for Halloween? I might ask you that. I'm guessing your answer might be no, if I asked about Halloween. I don't think so. It's not super popular in Taiwan. But you could tell me, have you ever decorated your home in general, like for Christmas or for Chinese New Year, whatever? Maybe you put things on the wall, okay, for a special holiday. So decorating the house for Halloween, there are many things you can do, but some of the standard things, the pretty popular things. One is a grave. A grave is a place where you put a dead body. So you can see this thing, that's called a tombstone or a gravestone. And the gravestone will say whose body is there. And so it's scary, but this is what people do for Halloween. Put a grave outside your house and maybe some bones and hands to show the monster coming out of the grave. Okay? Another popular thing to decorate a house with is using skeletons. So a skeleton is what is inside our body. We have bones, of course. This is one bone. But if you take all of your bones together, that's called your skeleton. Okay? Or if you say it faster, skeleton. Okay? Your skeleton in your body. So people like to put skeletons out on Halloween. Kind of creepy, right? Another thing is putting spider webs. Spider webs means what a spider makes. But people like to buy fake spider webs and put them all over their house or on their door, that kind of stuff. Okay? One other thing is pumpkins. Pumpkins are in season in the fall, meaning that pumpkins are growing quickly. They're ready to eat. Because the pumpkins are ready, people associate pumpkins with the fall. Associate means they make connection with that thing. Fall and pumpkins, they're associated. They stick together when people think about it. Okay? So pumpkins are really popular symbols for Halloween. And so people will decorate their homes with big pumpkins and little pumpkins. Like my mother likes to buy little pumpkins and put in our house. They just look cute. Okay? So let's try using present perfect to talk about our experiences. And I'll talk about my family. So in our lives, my family has decorated our house with pumpkins, spider webs, and skeletons before. So this is an experience in my life and in my family's life. My family has decorated our house with all these things, okay? So we have our subject, my family, and a family is one thing. You can say, it's kind of like an it. A family is a thing. And so that we change this to has. My family has. So that's a little bit tricky because you might think family is we, but actually you can think of it more like an it. My family has decorated. Okay? So our family has decorated our house. And so has is our verb, and then decorated is that past participle. Decorate plus D. Okay? And that's talking about experience. The other way to use present perfect is to talk about up until now. It started in the past, continued till now. So, my parents haven't decorated the house in a while. That means up until now, they haven't decorated the house. So, they stopped decorating and that continued till now, and they still aren't decorating the house. Well, that's okay. Me and my siblings have moved out of the house, and not many people come to trick or treat, so they don't really decorate much. Okay? And that's okay, right? Happy Halloween, Duffy. Thanks for joining. So that's decorating the house. Some of the things that people like to do. They have graves, which is a place where you put a dead body. Skeletons, meaning your bones in your body. Pumpkins, and spider webs. Okay? Now, another tradition for Halloween is connected to the pumpkins. Maybe you know what to do. Well, we do pumpkin carving. Okay? Pumpkin carving is a very common, fun tradition for Halloween. Okay? Like we said, people associate pumpkins with Halloween, so we want to take those pumpkins and use them. Okay. First up is the word carving. To carve something means you take a knife and you cut a shape out of it. So here you can see this mother carving the pumpkin. She's using that knife to cut a hole for the eye. Okay? Another way you could use the word carve is if someone has a piece of wood and they're cutting it into a shape. Maybe they're making a cat. And they have a piece of wood, they cut it into the shape of a cat. You could say that guy is carving a cat. Okay? So carving is that word. Using a knife to cut pieces until you get a shape. And so my question for you is, have you ever carved a pumpkin? So this is a way you can use present perfect to ask a question about that. So asking about an experience. Have you ever blah, blah, blah? Like in your life. So we have, and then our subject is you, and then ever means like in your whole life. It emphasizes that it's in your whole life. And then our past participle is carved. So have you ever carved a pumpkin? And then you could answer, yes, I've carved a pumpkin before. Or, no, I haven't carved a pumpkin in my life. Something like that. Okay? And when you finish carving your pumpkin, we give it a different name. The name of that kind of pumpkin is called a jack-o'-lantern. It looks like jack-o'-lantern, but the O, you can say it kind of like jack-o'-lantern. Okay? Say it quickly. Jack-o'-lantern. And the T gets quiet. Jack-o'-lantern. Okay? Let's see. Duffy says Halloween's game is to go door to door asking for candy. Okay, it's not a game, it's a activity. So a game is something you play, but going door to door asking for candy is what you do, but it's not a game. No one's trying to win, okay? But good, you're right. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Going door to door for candy has a special name we're going to look at in a minute. But talking about jack-o'-lanterns, I asked you, have you ever carved a pumpkin? And so I have. So I would say I've made jack-o'-lanterns before. So I've made jack-o'-lanterns before. So maybe something like this. But sometimes people make really incredible, detailed jack-o'-lanterns. This kind at the top, you kind of cut holes in the pumpkin. Well, first you scoop out the seeds. You have to get the seeds out, and then you cut holes in the pumpkin. Something like this, you have to be more careful, and people will carve the skin of the pumpkin, but they won't scoop out all of the meat. They won't cut through the pumpkin. And so some people make incredible jack-o'-lanterns like this. This is a Totoro pumpkin. And the black, I think they use some marker to give some more shadow. But if you do it like this, when you put a candle inside the jack-o'-lantern, it glows, which is pretty awesome. So it glows through the meat of the pumpkin, but the skin blocks some of the light, so you get this beautiful pattern. And like we were saying, using present perfect, I would say, I've made jack-o'-lanterns before. This is my experience. So I have made is I've made. But I've never made a Totoro pumpkin. So I've never made a Totoro pumpkin. So this is saying, in my experience, in my life, I've never done that. So from when I was a baby till now, it never happened. Got it? So like I said before, this is useful for talking about your experience. Okay. Another tradition on Halloween, of course, is dressing up. And dressing up and wearing a costume is a really fun thing to do. And everybody does it. Like young people and old people, a lot of people like to dress up for Halloween. So the activity is called dressing up, and the thing you wear is called a costume. So I wore a costume on Halloween, or I dressed up on Halloween. You could say both. So a question for you, what have you dressed up as? Here we have you is the subject, have dressed is the verb. But in a question, you split it, you move it around. So what have you dressed up as? That means in your experience, in your life, what costumes have you worn before? Okay? And so when dressing up for Halloween, there are usually 4 different kinds of costume. People wear scary costumes, cool costumes, funny costumes, or sexy costumes. It's usually one of these 4 things, okay? So a scary costume might be someone who dresses up like a ghost or a mummy, or they're covered in blood and they're really scary looking, okay? Some people really like to be scary for Halloween. Not me, really. I think it's a little bit gross and creepy. So some people like to dress up and look cool for Halloween, or try to look cool. So this is me a few years ago. I dressed up as a comic book character, or a character from a manga, and I've dressed up as Jotaro Kujo before. In Chinese, his name is Cheng Tai Lang. So I've dressed up as Jotaro Kujo before. So that's kind of a trying to be cool costume. And then down here, this is a friend of mine, and my friend has worn a Spider-Man costume. So this is Spider-Man in the black costume. So we're using present perfect for experience. I've dressed up. So I have dressed up. And the dressed up is the past participle. And then my friend is the subject, Has is the verb, and then worn is the past participle of wear. I wear clothes. I have worn a costume before. Okay? Then another kind is funny costumes. People like to wear something that makes people laugh. So this one's pretty silly, but this is an Instagram. Kind of lame, I think, but a little bit funny. What is that? What's the joke? Instagram. Nope. And gram for grandma. So Instagram. Kind of clever, right? So a lot of people try to have clever costumes where they try to make their friends laugh or do something silly. And a couple years ago, I saw a cute little dog in a funny costume. And so it doesn't have to be people. You could have your dog wear a costume on Halloween. So there's this little cute corgi with somebody riding him down the street. Pretty fun. Another thing that some people like to do is sexy costumes. And this is really common in college or at universities. A lot of people will be like, okay, I don't know what to be. Maybe I want to be a cat. I don't want to just be a normal cat. I guess I'll just be a sexy cat. So take any word and then put the word sexy in front of it, and then you get a Halloween costume. Oh, I want to be a vampire. Not just a vampire. I should be a sexy vampire. Or I want to be a jack-o'-lantern. Not just a jack-o'-lantern. I should be a sexy jack-o'-lantern. So this is a normal thing in college in America. Kind of funny. So what do you like? Do you like scary costumes, cool costumes, funny, or sexy costumes? For me, I like doing cool costumes or funny costumes. I think those can be more fun. Scary, a little bit too scary. Sexy, maybe a little too sexy. And then to practice, talking about up until now, honestly, I haven't worn a costume in a few years. Oh, it's so sad. Because of COVID and the pandemic, I haven't celebrated Halloween in a while, so I haven't worn a costume in a few years. Maybe this year might be the first time in a long time, so we'll see. But I haven't worn a costume in a few years. That means I did wear a costume a few years ago. But since then, there's this time from back then until now where I didn't wear a costume. So I haven't worn a costume in a few years. Maybe this year I should be a sexy skeleton. Do you think I'd look good? Too scary. Okay. Next up, another Halloween tradition is spooky snacks. So snacks that are a little bit fun or maybe a little bit spooky. Well, these ones are not really spooky. Spooky means a little bit scary. But the ones I chose are not spooky at all, I guess. Now, the first one we can talk about is Monster Munch. Monster Munch is a kind of snack that some people like to make on Halloween, which is pretty cool. And what it is it's popcorn and some candy mixed inside and then chocolate poured on top. Sounds pretty awesome, right? So monster is like a scary creature, right? Munch is a word meaning eat. Ow, you munch on something. So Monster Munch, it's just a fun thing to say. So people gave this food that name. Sounds pretty good. Easy to make too. Popcorn, candy, chocolate, and then ow, munch. Also, we talked about that fall is pumpkin season. Pumpkin season. It's also apple season in America. Lots of apples are growing in the fall. And so there are many apples around this time too. So some people will eat caramel apples. And what that is you take an apple, put it on a stick, and then dip it in caramel. And caramel is a kind of candy. It's like a brown candy that's like cooked sugar. It's melted sugar that turns brown and changes flavor. It's really good. And so caramel apples are incredible. It's like sweet from the apple, sweet from the caramel, all these flavors mixed together. This word caramel, I'm reading it as caramel. 3 sounds, caramel. You can also say it a different way. You kind of skip the A in the middle. Some people will say caramel. So caramel apples. Caramel apple, caramel apple. Both are okay. Got it? So sometimes when you learn new words, you might have to learn 2 ways to say it. Some people say caramel, some people say caramel. Okay, so practicing, talking about experiences. I've had tons of caramel apples in my life. Yum. So the subject is I. For present perfect, we need have. So I've, we have that v. And then we have had. Had is our past participle. So I've had tons of these apples, which if you spell it out, it would be I have had, which sounds like it's kind of weird, but it's actually right. I have had caramel apples before. Whew, English is kind of tricky sometimes. Okay? So the have part is to make it past perfect. The had is to be the actual verb. Got it? Another snack is roasted pumpkin seeds. So when you're making a jack-o'-lantern, first you scoop out the seeds. You shouldn't just throw those away though. You can take those seeds, put them in your oven and roast them with some stuff on top, some spices and maybe some salt and pepper. And so they're roasted pumpkin seeds. You can eat them as a snack and they're pretty good. Crunch. Now, if you can recognize who this kid, I'll give you a prize. Who's this boy in this picture? It's me. So another tradition for Halloween is bobbing for apples, kind of like a game that people do. So you can see in this left picture, there's a little bucket, and the bucket is filled with water. And you put some apples floating in the water. And you have to put your hands behind your back, and then you put your face in the water, and you try to bite an apple. And that's called bobbing for apples. Bobbing is a verb meaning like the apples are floating or bobbing, bob, going up and down. And so we call it bobbing for apples. Put your face in the water, try to bite an apple. It's pretty hard, but it's fun. And so I was able to get my apple. So have you bobbed for apples before? This is a fun game that people do around Halloween time in America. And if you've never tried, you should do it. If you have kids or you have like nephews and nieces, maybe you should try bobbing for apples. It's easy and it's fun. And everyone will laugh because you're covered in water and then you get an apple to eat later. Okay? So another tradition is trick-or-treating, of course, right? So you dress up in your costume and then you have some snacks with your friends and then you go trick-or-treating, okay? And trick-or-treating is a tradition where what you do is you're wearing your costume and you go to other people's houses. You don't have to know that person. You can go to a house of someone you don't know, which is a little bit scary when you're a kid. Like if you're 8 years old and your mom and dad say, hey, go knock on that door, even though you don't know who's there. It can be a little bit scary. Fun, but scary at the same time. And so it's called trick-or-treating. Why is it called trick-or-treating? Well, you go to the house, you knock on the door, you say, trick-or-treat. And then usually the person will give you some candy. Well, yeah, usually, almost always. So you knock on the door, the person opens the door, they say, oh, happy Halloween. And you say, trick or treat. You have to shout it. And then they give you some candy. And candy is a little treat. A treat means a nice snack. right? So why do we call it trick or treat? Well, you're supposed to give me a treat. If you don't, what will happen? Well, I might play a trick on you. To play a trick on someone means to like maybe do something mean to them or play a prank, something like that. And so usually people don't do this, but maybe a long time ago, people would play tricks on people if they didn't give them candy. Maybe like throw toilet paper on their house or something like that. Okay? So that's where it comes from. Trick or treat. You give me a treat. If you don't give me a treat, I'm going to play a trick on you. I'll throw eggs on you or throw water on your head, something like that. Okay? So, talking about experience. I've gone trick or treating many, many times. So, this is something that people in America do all the time. It's a fun thing. But who should do this? Well, should I be trick or treating? No, I'm way too old to be trick or treating. So for trick or treating, usually you should be like, if you're a teenager, you're too old. So 12 and under is usually the age for trick or treating. If you're 13 and 14, it's already getting a little bit too old. So, and if you're like 15 or 16, no way. So trick or treating is for kids, not for adults or for teenagers, right? So, my sentence up until now with present perfect. I haven't gone trick or treating in years. That's because, like I said, after you turn like 13, you shouldn't go trick or treating. You're too old. People will think you're strange. And so I haven't gone trick or treating since I was like 13, I think. And then back then, I went to someone's house and they said, "Aren't you too old for trick or treating?" And then me and my friends were, "Oh, maybe we're getting old," when we were 13. So I haven't gone trick or treating in years. So he said it's up until now. I went trick or treating way back then, but I haven't gone in years. So from then until now, I haven't gone. So it's a little bit tricky to use it this way, but that's what you can do. And so when you go trick-or-treating, you get candy, and usually you carry a little cute bucket, a bucket that you put candy in. Or maybe you could use a pillowcase. So a pillowcase is that like bag you put your pillow in. And so if you think you're going to get a lot of candy, bring a pillowcase. Maybe you can fill it up. Maybe not that crazy. I think the most candy I ever got was like almost 100 pieces of candy when I was probably 10 years old. And my teeth were a nightmare. Okay, so using present perfect, talking about our experiences, we can ask these kinds of questions. Have you ever gone trick-or-treating? So this would be asking, have you been the person to go to the door and get candy? And I'm guessing most of you are probably no. Maybe when you were little or in school. But have you ever gone trick-or-treating? And you could say, yes, I have. Or no, I haven't. Okay? Talking about your experience. If you have kids, I might ask you this. Have you ever taken your kids trick-or-treating? And that might be more realistic. I'm not sure how common trick-or-treating is these days here in Taiwan. So you could answer this. Oh yeah, I've taken my kids trick-or-treating. Or no, I haven't taken them trick-or-treating before. Maybe you can this year. Okay? After you go trick-or-treating, you get lots of candy, of course. Like I said, a big pillowcase full of candy. Too unhealthy. And these candies are some candies that are like traditional Halloween candies that a lot of people will give out and people get on Halloween. And so in America, if you go to America, you might not see these everywhere. But for some reason, people associate these candies with Halloween. And so they might buy them and give them out. Okay? So one candy is a Hershey's Kiss. These are little chocolates. They're pretty good. Oh, first up, our question is, what have you tried before? So again, what have you tried before? We have the have you tried is our present perfect about your experience, right? So Hershey's Kisses you might have seen before. I think you can get them at like Quanlian here in Taiwan. They're not bad. They're okay. They're little chocolate things. A kiss of chocolate. Okay? Another kind of candy is a dum-dum. A dum-dum is a little tiny lollipop. And they've been around for a long time. Oh, present perfect. Started a long time ago up till now. They've been around for a long time. Okay? So dum-dums, I've seen these since I was a kid. And they're pretty good. They're these tiny little lollipops, just the right size. Okay? Another is a York peppermint patty. So the inside is peppermint. It's like a creamy middle that's mint flavor, which is really nice. And the outside is chocolate. So it's mint on the inside, chocolate on the outside, a peppermint patty. Patty means anything that's flat and squished like this. Okay? That shape. Next, a classic Halloween candy is candy corn. You only see candy corn on Halloween. And the colors match Halloween, right? Orange and white and yellow. Candy corn is an interesting topic. I really like candy corn, but a lot of people hate candy corn. Candy corn's a little bit sweet, but the texture is a little bit chewy and a little bit like waxy. It's almost like wax. Wax is what you use to make candles. So candy corn is like soft and a little bit waxy, like that kind of texture. I think they taste good. A lot of people think they're terrible, which is interesting. So what do you think? Have you ever tried candy corn before? And did you like them? I think they're pretty good. Maybe I should get some this weekend. Another kind of candy is called Smarties. This is another candy that's a little bit controversial. Like some people like it, some people hate it. Smarties, they're these little circles of candy, but they're really dry. And when you bite it, it almost like turns into a powder. So some people think the texture is kind of strange. So that you crunch, but then they're kind of powdery when you eat them. I like them, but some people think they taste kind of strange or not good. Another classic, not Christmas, Halloween candy is Tootsie Rolls. Tootsie Roll is like this chewy chocolate thing, and they're pretty good. I really like them. There's also something called a Tootsie Pop, which is a lollipop with a Tootsie Roll on the inside. So it's this lollipop with a chewy chocolate center. Those are really good. Okay? Next is Nerds. Nerds are these they look like little rocks, but they're little bits of sugar. And they have different flavors like grape and strawberry. And this is just sugar. So these are the worst things for your teeth. You're like chewing on blocks of sugar. But they're really good. When I was a kid, I loved eating Nerds. And they also have these cute little cartoon characters. Okay? One more candy, super popular in America, are Reese's Pieces. Okay, so what these are, they look like M&Ms, but they're a mix of chocolate and peanut butter. So they're chocolate peanut butter candies. And they're really good. Reese's Pieces. And then some people actually will say it a different way and say Reese's Pieces. So Reese's Pieces or Reese's Pieces. Can you hear the difference? One is long E sounds on re and P, Reese's Pieces. And some people will make the second E a long E too. Reese's Pieces, which is kind of a cute way to say it. Oh, I like Reese's Pieces. So you could say it both ways. Both are okay. Or I think they're both okay. Talking about our experiences. I've eaten way too much candy in my life. My teeth are ruined. Oh. So, well, I'm exaggerating. My teeth aren't ruined, they're okay. But I definitely have eaten way too much candy in my life. So, I have eaten is talking about my experience, right? In my life, this is what I've done. Got it? Okay. And last but not least is Spooktober. This is an idea that people like to have fun and enjoy Halloween all month long. Spooktober is taking the word spooky and October and putting it together. Now, what is spooky? Spooky means a little bit scary, but kind of fun. So like spooky could be like you watch a scary movie, but you're having fun. You're not crying. So spooky is like, ooh, that's spooky. It's scary, but you smile a little bit. Okay? So spooky plus October, Spooktober. Okay? During Spooktober, a lot of people like to watch spooky movies. So scary movies. And so I might ask you, what scary movies have you seen? And you could answer something like, I've seen a movie called blah, blah, blah. This would be talking about your experience with that movie. I've seen. So I saw it in my life. Okay? Okay? Yeah. And then you could describe it. It was about blah, blah, blah. Okay? Now, Spooktober, you could watch something really scary or something just a little bit spooky for fun. So here are a few recommendations that are spooky but not super terrifying. There are a lot of terrifying, very, very scary movies. So these are some that are like medium. Okay? One that's a little bit spooky but 90% just fun is The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. The Simpsons is a cartoon that's super popular in America about this family with Homer and Bart and Marge and Lisa and Maggie. And The Simpsons, every Halloween, they have a special episode called The Treehouse of Horror. And so I would recommend to you, try to find some of these. There are a lot of little stories and they're pretty fun. There's one about the monkey's paw. I think maybe I talked about a few years ago or whatever, a long time ago. The monkey's paw is an old story. The Simpsons did their own version and made it funny. Okay? Another spooky movie you could watch that's fun, more fun than scary, is The Addams Family. And this is actually kind of a comedy. And so The Addams Family is about this family of scary people, like monster people, and they go on adventures together and they try to live their life. And like the daughter tries to go to camp and learn to talk to regular girls, but she's kind of like a scary monster girl. And so it's kind of funny and awkward. Another classic spooky TV show is called The Munsters. And this is not scary at all. It's about some Halloween monsters, and they are trying to live their life like a family. And this is actually a sitcom. A sitcom is a kind of comedy TV show. Like Friends is a sitcom. So The Munsters is kind of like something like Friends, but it's about a family of monsters. So it's pretty silly if you want to try something not spooky at all. Okay, if you want to go a little bit scary, a little more scary, one movie I could recommend is Scream. Scream is kind of scary. Scream is about, it's probably 25 years old, so from like the 1990s, but it's quite good. It's about a guy wearing a ghost mask killing people with a knife. So, scary. But it's a little bit funny because they are talking about scary movies and things that happen in a lot of scary movies. And so it's a scary movie about people getting killed, but there's a little bit of funniness, jokes and stuff because they're talking about what do scary movies like to do. So if you want something really light and fun, try Simpsons, Treehouse of Horror, Addams Family, or The Munsters. If you want something a little bit scary that's about scary movies, try Scream. It's a classic. But be ready to see some blood. Okay? So that's about it for Halloween traditions. We talked about dressing up in a costume. We talked about having some yummy snacks. We talked about going trick-or-treating. We talked about carving pumpkins. We talked about Spooktober, watching scary movies to celebrate Halloween and get into the Halloween spirit, like feel like it's Halloween. So I think we can wrap up here for today. I hope you all have a wonderful Halloween weekend. If you go out for Halloween, if you dress up, remember to take some pictures, have some fun. If you don't dress up, if you don't go trick-or-treating, buy yourself some candy, celebrate, let loose, have some fun, okay? So, yeah, I hope you guys have some fun this Halloween weekend, and I will see all of you next time, okay? So thank you everybody for joining. I hope you had some fun. If you have any questions, leave a comment or send me a message, and then I'll see you next time, okay? Thank you everybody. Happy Halloween. Stay safe out there. If there are any vampires, make sure to carry some garlic with you, okay? So I'll see you next time. Happy Halloween, and have a wonderful night and have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.